YouTube channel, Jay. Let's go!
Hello again, wrestling fans, and welcome to another edition of the Good Friends, Better Enemies podcast. My name is Jay, and I'm joined, of course, by my 2x4 to my Jim Duggan, Mr. Tyrone. Tyrone, how are you, my friend?
Oh, well, let me tell you, tough guy, I'm doing quite good. How are you?
I'm doing quite well as well. Finally over that post-SummerSlam hangover that I'm sure took you about a week and a half to get over, just like it did me. We had so much fun being together, folks. For the first time in over 3 years, we were knocking back a few cold ones, having a couple shots. We had a great time. But we are back to our regular format this week and in separate cities, but just as committed to showing you and bringing you some fantastic content, rather. Tyrone, how's everything going since you got back to your neck of the woods?
Well, there's been a crazy fucking heat wave that has sucked. For those of you who don't know, I'm not a small man. I'm about 6'6", 6'7", 370 pounds and covered in hair. So Papa Bear doesn't do well in this heat. So it broke last night. I'm hoping it stays that way for a little while because, my God, it has been ridiculous.
Yes, it has been exceptionally hot as of late. We had some crazy weather last night as well, some thunderstorms and things of that nature. I was up north enjoying some of the last few vestiges of summer. So I'm very excited to be back home, though, and talking some WCW 1999 with you, my friend. Spoiler alert, 1999 WCW is one of my favorite years. I know it's maybe a guilty pleasure, and a lot of people don't particularly look fondly at this year in WCW's history. But honestly, for me, I think there was some really, really good stuff going on in the promotion at the time. We had a stacked card of talent, rather, not so much stacked card on this particular event, but a stacked talent roster with some amazing stars and future stars in the works. So it's a very exciting time in the company and very exciting time in wrestling in general, and actually kind of a feeling that we're getting right now. For those of you listening to this podcast that weren't around during the Monday Night Wars, you probably don't remember the kind of tangible feeling of excitement as a wrestling fan that you would have felt back in those times and back in that era. Well, we're starting to feel something of the same thing with all this new promotional talent and these new companies evolving. Of course, AEW having CM Punk debut, which we alluded to last week and we discussed rather fervently. And then, of course, we have some other smaller promotions. ROH is starting to make quite a big of a comeback here as well. We have Impact. But the promotion we want to talk about right now is a promotion that Tyrone had an opportunity to indulge in over the last few days, and that is the NWA. Tyrone, you watched NWA Empower. Tell me about it, pal. How was it?
Okay, so before we get into that, I just want to address something right off the top. We did say we were going to be doing SummerSlam 1996 this week. We called an audible. Our special guest wasn't available. Scheduling didn't line up, so hence why you're getting Fall Brawl 99 this week. Good?
Yes, very good. Very good that you brought that up. Yes, we will be doing WWF SummerSlam 96 at a later date, probably next summer. Now, at this point, it doesn't make much sense to do it later on in the year. But as you said, our guest didn't line up, so we called an audible, and we thought, you know what? We've been pretty Fed heavy lately. Why not try doing some WCW? Let's give it a go.
Now, let's talk Empower. I had the chance to watch this the other day. I think I actually watched it on a replay yesterday morning. It was fucking fantastic. The fact that wrestling is back in the chase, Jay, I know that that's going to hype you up like it did me. I informed that to you off air. You had no idea that's where it was, and I could hear the excitement in your voice.
Yeah, so cool. I mean, so much history, right? So I'm really, really excited to go back to those moments. I mean, if you think about and you look at the history of that particular program, Wrestling at the Chase, I mean, just so much history, so many different superstars from different eras wrestling and coming through that territory. St. Louis was really a tentpole of the wrestling territory era and one of the biggest eras, or rather biggest territories of the era. So I think it's really, really special that a lot of these companies, smaller promotions, are paying homage to these past landmarks and tentpole events. I think it's really, really cool that they were able to go back to that venue and really showcase what the NWA is all about, really.
So the show opened up with Mickie James coming out and cutting a very heartfelt promo. You could see the emotion in her eyes. You could hear the crowd chanting, "Thank you, Mickie," which clearly meant a lot for her. It was a great moment. Then our opening match was actually a fantastic triple threat with Dynamite, Chick Tormenta, and Kylie Rae. Now, I wasn't overly familiar with Chick Tormenta or Dynamite, but Kylie Rae I definitely know from AEW and Impact. Great to see her in there. Know she's been doing things with the NWA. It was just a solid triple threat to open with Dynamite just going over. Then we had the first of two semifinal matches for the NWA Women's Tag Team Championship with the Hex and Hell on Heels. Now, the Hex is one of my favorite women, not only women's tag teams, but tag teams right now, because I fucking love Allison Kay. I've loved Allison Kay. I've loved Sienna. Since she's been in Impact, she had a stint briefly in the Fed doing, oh my God, what was the tournament called? The Mae Young Classic. She was in that. Marty Bell, I believe, was also in that. Hell on Heels is Sahara 7 and Renee Michelle, who you might remember from such hilarious moments as Drake Maverick's wedding with the 24/7 title. Anyway, you had the Hex going over. It was a solid match. It was great tag team wrestling, which the NWA was always known for. You also had, I'm not going to go through the whole card here, but the other semifinal match was Red Velvet and Kylie King taking on a tag team that I loved. I thought the gimmick was great, and they are called the Free Babes. They're doing the Freebirds. They're all second generation wrestlers. You have Miranda Gordy, who of course is Carrie Bam Bam Gordy's daughter. You have Hollywood Haley J, who I can't remember who she is the daughter of. I believe it was somebody who was either a journeyman or not as prevalent in the major companies. And then you have Jazzy Yang, who is the 18-year-old daughter of Jimmy Wang Yang. So it was fun just for all of the fun nostalgic vibes that you got with the Freebirds and then the Free Babes. The fact that Bam Bam Gordy's daughter is in it, I thought that was a great touch. I don't know if you're familiar with her at all.
Not really, no. I've heard of her, but I haven't seen a lot of her work. No, I'm excited to see this. I'm going to go back and watch some of this for sure. I mean, this event wasn't something that was really on my radar, but I think as both you and I alluded to off air, that post SummerSlam, there was so much going on with SummerSlam with both AEW Rampage, CM Punk's debut, plus SummerSlam, and then they had the NXT the next night. I think that there was a little bit of wrestling fatigue, a little bit of a wrestling hangover or burnout, if you might, or if you will. So I think that in terms of having this event so close to the next or to SummerSlam, it was the next weekend. It was something I was excited to see, but not something I was going to go out of my way to see, unfortunately, just because I was a little tired from all the wrestling I'd already been watching.
Now, one thing that happened on this card that I thought was interesting was when you think NWA, you tend to think very old school wrestling, title always going on last, correct?
I would think so, yeah.
So the title was the second last match, and you had Camille retaining her title over Layla Hirsch, it was a great match, but the fucking main event was the NWA Women's Invitational Cup Gauntlet. So you had 10 women, 2 would start it, every 2 minutes another one would come out, and the only way to be eliminated was by pinfall or submission. So briefly, I'm just going to run down who was in it. You had Tootie Lynn, Thunder Kitty, Misha Slamovich, Kira Hogan, Genocide, Jamie Senegal, Lady Frost, Debbie Malenko, Bianca Corelli, and Chelsea Green. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, you heard of Malenko in there. That's a big name. Bianca Corelli is another one who is a second-generation star. She is the daughter of Santino Marella.
Yes, she is.
From up here in our neck of the woods.
Yep.
Now, here's the interesting thing I found with this one. They had Chelsea Green come in at number 1. And they had Chelsea Green go over in the main. I don't know how I feel about this. I know she's a hell of a talent, but I feel like with every independent company right now, mainly NWA, Ring of Honor, and Impact, Chelsea Green is being featured very heavily. I'm having okay, so here's my issue. The fourth wall being broken down and that imaginary door being open where they can go wherever they want, it's great to a degree, but at the same time, I don't need Chelsea Green becoming the independence version of Charlotte Flair, if that makes sense.
No, I understand what you're saying, and I think there's also a danger of overexposure. If you're going to be on every different promotion to one facet or another, I think at a certain point people are just going to get burnt out on you. I think that when you are a special star, when you have a certain type of caliber of stardom, or you have a certain type of skill set, I think that the operative thing with wrestling these days, and has been for quite a while, I mean, WWE is a great example of it, is less is more. I don't need as much all the time. And give me a chance to miss you. Give me a chance to long for you, to chant for you, to want you in my wrestling program or on my television. If I'm flipping a channel from promotion to promotion to promotion, and every time I flip on the channel, you're featured in some kind of spot or segment, I'm going to burn out on you as a character very quickly.
CM Punk.
Yeah, well, that was definitely less is more. I mean, we haven't seen the guy for quite a while, but no, I think it's just to round out the conversation about NWA. I think it's so cool. I mean, you got to think about, Sam Mushnick and the Kiel Auditorium. You think about stars like Ed Strangler Lewis and Lou Thez, of course, Nature Boy Buddy Rogers. Too many different names to sort of bring up in one particular bouquet of wrestling talent here, but just an incredible legacy that St. Louis has for wrestling. So I think it's really, really special, and I'm really, really impressed that we got wrestling at the Chase, and that we got a chance to relive some of those glory days that are so richly deserved for a city like St. Louis in the wrestling landscape.
Now, I didn't get a chance to check out NWA 73 yet, but spoiler alert, I'm really, really surprised here. Trevor Murdoch is your new NWA champion. He beat Nick Aldis, who had been on this crazy undefeated, maybe not undefeated, but he's been champion since he beat Cody Rhodes for it. So that would have been at least 2 or 3 years ago, I want to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. And then we all know we got the Nature Boy there, and from what I saw on social media, Conrad Thompson was on commentary, so I'm very curious to hear how he is on it.
Yeah, that's it's one thing to do podcasting; it's quite another to do commentary. I mean, you and I have played around a couple times with maybe doing some commentary for some matches, and it's a lot harder than people think. I mean, to captivate an audience, to call the action, and to keep people engaged is a lot harder than just kind of musing about things or discussing past events. It's a lot more difficult to discuss something that's happening live in living color on your screen in front of you. So I hope he does well. The guy's very, very talented at what he does. So it'd be interesting to see how that all pans out for sure.
Oh man, you and I can barely do a podcast, let alone commentate anything.
Well, we certainly give it the old college try every week. And speaking of college, well, we are right around the time of Frosh Week, which means that WCW's Fall Brawl from 1999, which took place on September 12th, 1999 in Winston-Salem, North Carolina at the Lawrence Joel Veterans Memorial Coliseum. And again, that would have been right around Frosh Week for those kids and youngsters going to college and university down there in the United States around September. What are your memories of WCW 1999, my friend?
First of all, that was the worst fucking segue you've ever done. Frosh Week is how we got here. That was great. I'm so happy for you. WCW 99, not the guilty pleasure for me that it is for you. I will say Vampiro, loved him. I know I'm probably in the minority here, but I didn't hate the Berlin gimmick. I thought it went a little weird, and maybe it was probably offensive, but I thought it was better than Das Wonder Kid, to be perfectly honest with you. It was a weird time in the company because you had newer stars coming in, like your Kaz Hayashis, like your Yangs, your 3 count wouldn't be too far behind. But yet you still have the established stars of the Sting, the Steiners, the Harlem Heats, all of that. So it was kind of almost a passing of the torch, but because they all had guaranteed money, they wouldn't pass the torch, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know that them passing the torch would have necessarily done anything to their guarantee, but no, it was
But
definitely.
think about how much cooler WCW 99 would have been if the Insane Clown Posse were on top.
I think it would have gone out, gone under 2 years earlier, in my opinion.
Hey man, they were in the fucking Fed a year before this. Fed was still standing strong. We all love the oddities. You can't hate on them. They were a dumb gimmick, but everybody loved them.
We did not all love the oddities. They were stupid.
I loved the oddities to the point that I still play the theme song on a regular basis. I'm just gonna slip this one out of the bag here. I'm a bit of a closeted juggalo. I'm not opposed to the ICP in any way, shape, or form.
I don't think it's closeted at all. I think you are just a full-fledged juggalo.
I mean, I don't walk around with the face paint on, but I definitely drink a lot of Faygo.
I don't even know what that means.
It sounds like a terrible slur, but I promise you it is just a brand of soda.
Okay. Well, any way you slice it, I'm going to let you and your ICP fandom stand. And I think it's time to get into this card. What do you think, pal?
Well, judging by your hatred almost of the ICP right off the bat there, yeah, let's get into it. And I mean, they are technically the opening match, but we'll get to that when you're ready.
All right. Well, why don't you run us down as per our usual format, and I will take us on a cruise through the last year before the new millennium.
Oh, tonight we're going to party like it's 1999, aren't we, Jay? Our opening contest was a 6-man tag team match with, goddamn, such a loaded card. Like, you said it earlier, the roster was so stupidly huge at this point that our opening match is the Filthy Animals of Ray Ray, Eddie Guerrero, and Billy Kidman taking on Vampiro and my boy, Shaggy 2 Dope and Violent J, the Insane Clown Posse.
Well, my opening contest on this card is also a 6-man tag team attraction. And I have Vampiro and the Insane Clown Posse going up against the West Texas Rednecks of Barry Windham, Kendall Windham, and Kurt Hennig.
Oh, okay. I'm not going to lie. I'm fucking loving this right now because no matter what, I'm getting Kurt Hennig winning or I'm getting the ICP winning. I like that we're getting the rap versus country battle that we kind of got with the No Limit Soldiers, but that was a really fucking short-lived gimmick with Master P trying to get into WCW. ICP wins.
Yeah, well, so I've got the Rednecks having heard enough of the ICP and their music, having just recently run Master P out of WCW. Hennig and the crew were on a mission to rid WCW of rap and all the other musical crap in WCW. The two factions took turns one-upping each other, and the match is signed for Fall Brawl. It's pretty much what you'd expect, a hard-hitting brawl with the ICP doing their best. They weren't terrible workers. They weren't the worst I ever saw, but they weren't, the best either. The finish comes when Hennig and Kendall are brawling on the outside with the ICP. Then Vampiro nails Barry Windham in the head with that framed platinum record that ICP was sporting, and then behind referee Mickey J's back, and then, of course, delivers the nail in the coffin for the pin. Your winners, Vampiro and the ICP.
Oh, my God, Jay, we're going to the gathering of the Juggalos next year and fucking announcing this. I am tagging them in all of our social media. ICP. IC fucking P!
You are way more energetic than I am. I've had a lot of coffee. I was sitting in the car for 2.5 hours on a little road trip today, so I'm a little bit more tired than you are, but I appreciate you pulling through with the energy levels for me, pal, this week. That's great.
All my juggalos and juggalettes are all about this one right now, and fuck yeah, I am stoked.
Awesome. I love it. That's pretty much all I have for this one. If you want to move on to the next.
That's cool. The show's over. ICP wins. That's it. We're done. WCW done. Thanks for joining us. You can find us on Instagram no, I'm just kidding. The next contest was for the WCW Cruiserweight Championship with fucking Lenny Lane, who I'll never get behind, taking on Kaz Hayashi.
So the next match we have on the card is the WCW Cruiserweight Championship. We have Lenny Lane, the champion, with Lodi defending against Billy Kidman.
Okay, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm sure that this is way better, but I think Kaz Hayashi is underrated and probably actually should have gone over on the original one. So tell me what you got.
Well, I have Kidman and Lane have been exchanging victories for the last few weeks. Lenny never is willing to put the title up on the line. So finally, there's a match on WCW Saturday night, which I think is a nice touch to have an angle take place on Saturday night as opposed to always Nitro and Thunder. So it's decreed that should Kidman defeat Lodi in a singles match, that the match will be signed for the pay-per-view with Lenny Lane versus Kidman. At the Fall Brawl, we have the two in a very fast-paced encounter. Just as it seems that Lane would steal the victory, Conan comes out and makes the save, neutralizing Lodi. Kidman hits the shooting star press. Your winner and new WCW Cruiserweight Champion, Billy Kidman.
I mean, I love Kidman. I'm not trying to downplay him in any way, shape, or form here, but I'm just glad he got the title off of Lenny Lane. I did not understand the hype that they were putting on him. Didn't like him and Lodi. Thought that Lenny Lane essentially was doing the gimmick that Chris Jericho was doing 2 years prior. Looked like him, tried to wrestle like him, just wasn't a fan.
Yeah, I agree. And I also didn't really like the angle that they were playing up. I mean, they were suggesting something between Lenny and Lodi that kind of, suggesting without saying
they were doing the Billy and Chuck angle before the Billy and Chuck angle.
Exactly, but they were doing it in not very it wasn't done in a tasteful way. Not to say that the Billy and Chuck thing was done.
I was gonna say, was that one really done tastefully?
Yeah, neither one was. But I honestly think that that's something that we can do without in wrestling. I mean, it doesn't matter to me, one way or the other, but it's just like, why even bring it up as a subject? I think
we can completely do without relationships and weddings, period, in wrestling. I don't care about who they are. Miss Elizabeth and Randy Savage did it. We forgot about it, maybe not. It's up to you whether you want to believe that or not. But that was the only one that mattered. I don't need to see any more ever again. Maybe Uncle Elmer and his wife. That was a fun one, too.
See, I don't mind if it plays into a storyline or it's going to blow something off. I mean, the Savage and Elizabeth thing led to the Jake and Savage feud, which was really, really awesome. So I'm fine with it if it leads to something. But if it's going to be something like, Bobby Lashley and Lana, then never again, please, ever in my life.
Yeah, I'm just okay with never seeing it again. Like the Triple H and Stephanie McMahon one, the Test and Stephanie McMahon one, they all sucked. I don't need to see them.
Yeah, I exactly. And so the bottom line is for me is I think that, you can come up with more creative storylines without kind of going to the low brow of having to exploit certain, proclivities and things of that nature. So anyhow, that's pretty much all I have for this one.
Well, up next, we have a tag team contest with a group that I'm not going to lie, I completely fucking forgot about. The First Family, Hugh Morris and Brian Knobbs, which it's just weird to see Brian Knobbs come out in full Nasty Boys gear, still in a Nasty Boys t-shirt, but not in the Nasty Boys anymore, taking on the Revolution of Dean Malenko and Shane Douglas. Now, the Revolution, I don't think gets enough love. You got Dean Malenko, you got Shane Douglas, you got Perry Saturn, and you got Chris Benoit. You essentially have the Radicals, but Guerrero instead of Douglas. Thought that the group was solid, but I feel like at this point in 99, they were all fed up with their jobs and clearly weren't caring like they should have.
Yeah. This match is actually going to change to the debut of Berlin. And we have Berlin going up against Perry Saturn.
Okay. I'm in the minority here where I like the Berlin gimmick. I thought it was better than Das Wonderkid, as I've said. I really like the fact that he had the wall with him. It kind of made it look like he was this weird German. I don't want to say the words I'm thinking because it's not right. I know he's been compared to it, but It definitely made him seem like he was important enough to have a bodyguard with him. I like that you're putting him up against Perry Saturn because I feel like Berlin has to go over here because if it's his debut, you can't have Saturn getting the win.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that Saturn's a good choice because he's a great in-ring worker. He wasn't doing much at this time. I mean, he was part of the Revolution, but
And way better than Jim Duggan.
I think so too. I mean, I get the logic of Jim Duggan just based on the fact that he's a established star. Plus, Jim Duggan was, Mr. USA. I mean, the whole reason Jim Duggan was in the match was because Buff Bagwell was late to the building. I think that Buff
okay,
Bagwell.
now was that a shoot or was that a work? Because at the end of this match, they had Buff Bagwell in their gorilla position talking to Mike Graham, saying that he missed his flight or whatever, and then Buff Bagwell came out, went to give Jim Duggan a hug, and Duggan looked legit pissed and pushed him away.
I don't know. I don't know if that was a shoot or not. I don't imagine it was. I would imagine some kind of worked angle. I would think so anyways. But my real thinking here was that, if I couldn't do Buff because I wasn't 100% sure whether it was shoot or work, so I just left Buff out of it. I thought Perry Saturn was a good choice. And of course, Saturn would work really well with the Berlin gimmick. I'm with you. I think that the Berlin gimmick was really well done in the beginning anyways. He started to do jobs pretty fast after that. I mean, he should have been going on a win streak for a bit. When you have him losing to, Brad Armstrong at Halloween Havoc, I'm kind of like, Brad Armstrong's a great wrestler, but, if you want to build up this character, you don't have him losing in the next month's pay-per-view to someone who's kind of cold like Brad Armstrong. But anyhow, this match.
No, you do it like the Millennium Man Sid, and you have him be on like a 78-0 record, but nobody saw 65 of them happen.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think that you need to do a streak like that, but I mean, you'd have an excellent match with Saturn. The finish would come in a relative squash with the Hangman's neck breaker for the pin. Your winner is going to be Berlin. Not a squash in the sense that it wouldn't be competitive, but it wouldn't be very long, and Berlin would have the upper hand for the majority of the match.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with this. This is a way better match than Duggan or even Bagwell for that matter. I'll take Saturn over either two of those guys.
Yeah, exactly. I think so too. I think it's the better choice.
Well, up next on the original card, we have the match for the WCW World Television Championship, which I'm not going to lie, maybe my favorite WCW title. Doesn't get enough love. Fan-fucking-tastic. But we had Rick Steiner defending against Perry Saturn, so clearly this isn't a thing right now. So, I don't know. Do we still get a TV title match, Jay?
We're actually having a WCW World Television Championship versus WCW United States Championship winner-take-all match. Rick Steiner, the television champion, going up against Chris Benoit, the United States champion.
Now, what is your logic why are you doing a title versus title? What are we doing here? Are we getting rid of one of them, or are they going to be defended separately?
I think they'll be defended separately. I just thought, just mix things up a bit. And frankly, I just thought that a Rick Steiner-Chris Benoit match would be really cool. If you have the background of Rick Steiner with his amateur wrestling ability, and then, of course, you have Chris Benoit, who's a wrestling machine, I just think it would be a really, really good match.
So you're not doing a unification. You're doing more what we would see with Lance Storm in like a year or so, where he would just start collecting all the titles.
Exactly. And then the other thing, too, is, I mean, when you have somebody like Benoit working or Steiner, either guy holding like both titles, you can work different styles of matches. Plus, you can also do something fun where you maybe have them defend each title on, the same pay-per-view or what have you. So I think there's a lot of fun, and there's a couple of different interesting angle ideas coming out of it. I'm trying to keep things as cohesive and kind of make sense as much as possible. This is the last pay-per-view before Russo would come in and book, so I'm trying to make sense of it all before he comes in, kind of screws it all up.
I was going to say, why bother making sense of it when it's all just going to be vacated and start from scratch anyway? Yeah,
exactly. Well, so I basically have it here that it's decided that the two would have a title for title match, as Benoit considered Steiner's championship a lesser title, and Steiner took exception to that, so they decided to make it a winner-take-all match. it's really well worked with a lot of stiff chops. There's going to be some, potatoes, maybe working potato punches, things like that. Stiff suplexes, clotheslines. The finish comes as Steiner goes for a top rope bulldog, which Benoit counters into a vicious crossface for the submission. And your winner, and now United States and television champion, Chris Benoit.
No, I think that makes sense to have Benoit go over. Rick Steiner at this point, not that he wasn't in fantastic shape and everything, but getting a little beyond his prime, whereas Benoit was definitely the younger, more aggressive, more hungry talent at this point.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that, the match itself would have been really, really hard hitting. I can imagine that match in 99 would have been really solid. I would have really enjoyed that match. I think it might be one of the better matches from WCW on a pay-per-view, with given some time and not having the silly, Nitro-esque, run in for every segment type format. I think giving those guys some time on pay-per-view would have been a really, really good match.
I mean, it's better than what Benoit and I'll just say what Benoit was booked in originally, because Steiner had Saturn, so that was a decent match. But yeah, I'm cool with this.
All righty. Well, the next match I think is where we might fall off the wheels or fall off the rails.
Well, let's see, because the original match was Berlin defeating Jim Duggan, which I know is not happening. Is there anything in its place, or are we moving to the tag title match?
There is something in its place.
Okay, tell me what the fuck Sid's doing and who he's going over.
The next match, we have Sid Vicious going up against the Nature Boy, Ric Flair.
Okay. First of all, why?
Well, it's WCW 99. It's the middle of the Monday Night Wars, middle of, I guess, call it the Attitude Era, since WWF won the war. So that's what it's known as now. It'll always be the Monday Night Wars to me and you. We are going to inject some real life situations into the booking here and have Ric Flair avenging Arn Anderson for the scissors incident, which took place a few years earlier.
Okay. Jesus Christ. So we're talking about back in the day when Sid Vicious stabbed Arn Anderson with scissors, like as a shoot, correct?
Yes, we are.
So now we're turning it into an angle where Ric Flair and Sid are going to have a wrestling match. Excuse me. I'm dying a little bit over this. They're going to have a wrestling match because Rick's best friend got stabbed by scissors, and it took him this long to avenge it. And we're going to have the Millennium Man, Sid Vicious, going against the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. Please fucking tell me that it's like scissors on a pole or some stupid stipulation.
No, that's the long and short of it. That's exactly what's going on. And the reason it wasn't avenged before was because neither man was in the same promotion at the same time after the incident took place. So, I mean, you also have Sid, who's coming in, fresh to WCW after having a run in the Fed, and then, of course, going to ECW for a cup of coffee. So Sid had come in, I believe it was June of 99. So this is now September. We've been building up this feud for a little while, and there's been some pretty vicious, no pun intended, promos going on between the two back and forth. Flair is just burying Sid on Nitro and Thunder in different promos and things of that nature. So finally we get to the match. It's obviously a very heated program, and the match is announced and official for Fall Brawl. We're in Flair country, so people are going bananas for the Horseman and for Rick. It's a very well-worked match, actually. Sid could go with certain guys. I mean, he had the ability to wrestle a fairly solid and snug style when he had the right opponent. I cite him versus Shawn Michaels at Survivor Series 96 as an example. But so we have Flair doing color and bumping all over the place for Sid. Anderson comes out, and he is trying to interfere on Flair's behalf, only to be booted off the apron and onto the floor. Flair hits the low blow and gets a figure four on Sid. Sid gets the rope. Flair then again attempts to lock on the figure four, only to be kicked off by Sid into the corner. Sid then hits a choke slam and a powerbomb for the pin. Your winner, Sid Vicious.
You can no longer give me shit if I book a broken up tag team to finally have their blow off on a pay-per-view within months of the angle. If you're going to pull this fucking long-term, multiple-year stabbing nonsense and Flair doesn't even get the goddamn win, he does the job to Sid. I'm mad because I'm keeping calm right now.
Well, again, they were trying to build Sid as a big time star in the promotion right now, having just come in since June. And just because Sid got the victory here doesn't mean that the war is over. I mean, I think we're going to build to something else in the future, maybe a stip match. Maybe it'll be a first blood, who knows what. But I think, okay, so look at in canon. So in canon, you had Sid feuding with Goldberg for the better part of the fall of 1999. I would much rather a Sid and Ric Flair feud than I would a Goldberg Sid feud.
Yeah, I mean, sure, Sid's still involved. I got nothing to say on this one. You know how I feel. I'm pissed off. I can't believe you would have Flair job out to fucking Sid. Yes, sure, they were pushing him at the point. They were also about to start pushing David Flair, Crowbar. They were pushing fucking Mike Awesome as that 70s guy and the fat chick Thriller. This doesn't mean that it's a good idea to have them win. It's the goddamn Nature Boy. It is. I mean, he's essentially the Babe Ruth of pro wrestling. You're going to have Babe Ruth go out there, and if you can hologram him or something and have him fucking lose to, oh God, I'm showing my age right now, but I was going to say Mark McGuire in a home run thing or something. But you get what I'm saying. You don't do shit like that. You don't have the man who is responsible for injuring people, disappearing when it's softball season, beat the fucking icon of the company who has done everything he can for them. This is the worst booking decision you have ever made.
That is completely fine if you feel that way. You also remember we're also going through, we're booking to the era, and I'm booking to WCW 99, and that's more or less how I think it would have gone in 99. So I appreciate everything you're saying. I see it differently. I see it as massive heat with Flair losing in Flair country to Sid, especially based on the stakes and the angle, the story that we've told. So going forward, I just kind of feel like it would be a great way to get the feud ignited, and then blow it off with something a little bit more stip heavy down the road. But I completely understand your opinion. I respect it, and so we just don't see eye to eye on this one.
Well, I'm done talking about this one. So the next match scheduled on the card is for the WCW Tag Team Championship, with Harlem Heat taking on the West Texas Rednecks, who we've already seen. So I have a feeling here we're going to see Harlem Heat job out to Bill Goldberg and Tank Abbott somehow in a weird tag team match where somehow it goes back to their college football days, or Tank Abbott was in jail with Booker T and they're avenging something and we're getting to it, and it's going to be a spear, jackknife. Then Tank Abbott literally cuts them in the face.
The next match on the card is a four-way dance for the WCW #1 contendership of the World Heavyweight Championship. We have Diamond Dallas Page versus Goldberg versus Lex Luger versus Bret the Hitman Hart.
Okay. On paper, this sounds like it could be salvageable because of Bret Hart. But when you've got Goldberg in the ring, who I've shit on enough here to nobody knows or nobody believes that I like him. You've got Lex Luger, who, yeah, I put him over in the main event of my thing last week, but Luger was not a good worker, especially by 99. You got DDP, who his work rate was okay. He was over as fuck. But then you got Bret, who is, oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying this, but probably the best worker on this entire card that you've laid out so far, other than a Ric Flair or an ICP. Sorry, I had to get a dig in there. Yeah, I'm okay with this. I'm not gonna lie, dude. I'm looking at the original card right now, and I'm getting really baffled as to what we're potentially gonna see, if anything else. But walk me through this.
So basically what's happening here is the title picture is in such chaos. There's so many challengers for the champion and just not enough champions in terms of world heavyweight champions. So we're trying to kind of streamline what the championship contender pipeline is here. The match is signed and all four men take their turns interfering in each other's matches going into the pay-per-view. It's a pretty simplistic wrestling story. The match itself is a brawl. You mean, think like the Final Four in your house with Vader, Undertaker, Steve Austin, and Brett. I mean, all four men are going to take turns pairing off with each other and fighting both in the ring and outside the ring. It's one fall to a finish or submission. There's no real disqualification here, so you can wrestle on the outside or brawl on the outside for basically unlimited time. Goldberg spears DDP into the apron from the aisleway, which kind of effectively eliminates both men. Then you have Luger attempting to hit the Hitman with Sting's baseball bat, but Brett ducks. Then Brett grabs the bat, holding both ends of the bat, and jams the bat into Luger's chest. After nailing a stirring DDP on the apron, who's sort of trying to come to and get his wits about him on, kind of crawling on the apron, grabbing the top rope. Brett nails him, knocking him back on the floor. Goldberg's still out on the ground. The Hitman applies the sharpshooter to an unresponsive Luger for the pin. And your winner, new number one contender, Bret the Hitman Hart. And you have to remember, this is his kind of return to the WCW after Owen had passed in May of 1999. They were starting to really rebuild Bret at this point into the August and September of 99. It kind of fell off the rails when Russo came in, but they were really trying to rebuild Bret. I mean, yes, granted, Russo put the title on Bret and he won that championship at the Mayhem event in Toronto, but I feel like this would have been a really, really good way to reestablish Bret in WCW, having come off the Owen thing and been off for a couple of months, then going over three of the more established stars in the company. This is a great way to catapult Bret back into the main event picture as a real solid.
You know what? For the first time ever, you don't need to sell Bret Hart winning a match to me. Bret should have won this one. Bret should have had a much better WCW run than he did. I'll give you this. You did right on this one. You had the right guy go over.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I know how difficult that is for you to admit, being a Bret Hart match. So
I did. I swallowed my pride a little bit there, but at the same time, I'm not cheering for Luger. I'm not cheering for Goldberg. I might cheer for DDP, but that's about it.
That is completely fine with me, pal.
So next up on the original card, sorry, were you done with that one or no?
Yeah, no, we're done.
So next up on the original card, we had Sid and Benoit for the U.S. title. We're not getting that.
The next match we have on the card is a triangle match for the WCW Tag Team Championships. We have Harlem Heat, the champions, defending against Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio, defending against Dean Malenko and Shane Douglas.
Okay, first question is, how are Harlem Heat the champions?
Because the title match that they lost on Nitro to the West Texas Rednecks never happened. Back about a month previous or 3 weeks previous to this. So
okay, so
Harlem came in.
You eliminated,
yeah,
you eliminated that. And you made their eighth run just a legitimate run.
Yeah, they're just not. They didn't drop the titles on Nitro. They came into the event as the champions.
All right, walk us through it. I'm gonna go top up my drink. Let everybody know how we're doing.
Sounds good. Well, what we're doing here is we're having both teams having a legitimate claim to the number one contenderships. So Harlem Heat just straight up says, you know what? If you guys both want a shot at it, we're just going to give you a shot at the same time. We don't care. We're established champions. It's Booker T and Stevie Ray. They're one of the most decorated tag teams in the history of wrestling. Let's just have them go ahead and defend against both. Why not? So it's a crazy match with high spots and power moves. You can imagine all the different high-flying offense from a Guerrero and a Mysterio. Of course, you get some real technical wrestling with the Malenko, some power moves with Stevie Ray holding Guerrero and Mysterio up for press slams and things of that nature. Shane Douglas is going to be there as a solid worker as well. There's going to be a lot of different spots with again the high flyers like a Rey Mysterio, and then of course it's going to break down and devolve into a bit of a cluster where you have some guys wrestling on the outside. Only one ref in the ring, so he can only pay attention to so many things going on at once. Certain guys pairing off with others. The finish comes when you have Guerrero hitting a frog splash on Malenko. The referee goes down for the count of 1, 2, 2.5, and Booker out of nowhere nails Eddie with the scissors kick to steal the pin. Your winner and still WCW World Heavyweight Tag Team Champions, Booker T, Stevie Ray, Harlem Heat.
Good. I'm glad that you let them win. You let their reign go on. It's Harlem Heat. They're the best tag team in WCW history.
I really enjoyed their work. I thought, we just put them back together not too long before this with Booker T, being WCW and Stevie Ray being part of the NWO for quite a while there, the better part of 98. So it was great to see them back together again. Why not give them another really solid run? It was fresh again. Harlem Heat, maybe by the time they broke up, or rather Booker T kind of broke off into singles, I think it was something that had run its course at that time. We didn't necessarily get that excited about a Harlem Heat match anymore. You break them up for the better part of a year, you put them back together. It's a fresh streak. It's a fresh team. Something that people were probably clamoring for. A lot of times people get tired or fatigued of tag teams, but then when you break them up, they kind of want to see them back together again. So I think that's the case here. And you really look forward to seeing Harlem Heat just sort of run roughshod over the WCW tag team division. And then, of course, you have them drop the titles to a new and upcoming team, do the job and make some stars out of guys at the appropriate time. But I think they needed a little bit more of a run here before that it was time for that.
Now, the only thing I wasn't a big fan of with this run of Harlem Heat was they didn't come out in the matching tights. You had Booker T coming out in the red and Stevie Ray in the silver, so it was almost still hints of the NWO for him. I don't know if that was done on purpose or if they just were dealing with WCW and their wardrobe and everything at the time, but that's the only fault I had with them.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is there. Maybe they're just trying to freshen up the look a little bit. Maybe they were thinking that they didn't necessarily want to be, although they were a tag team, maybe they were thinking, we don't necessarily want to be, carbon copies of each other in terms of our ring gear. Because you have to remember they were both wrestling, singles matches at the same time as well. So even though they were tag team champions, they were both having kind of singles runs as well. So I think maybe that's part of it. I don't know.
I'm just happy you didn't reunite the Steiners for this one like you have a tendency of doing.
I only did that once.
And that was too many times.
Okie dokie.
Well, the next match on the original card is DDP and Goldberg, so we know we're not getting that. Are we going straight to the main, or do you have something else?
The main event of the evening is for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship, and it is Hulk Hogan, recently minted back into the red and yellow as champion, going up against the man they call Sting.
Now, I'm okay with this match actually staying, but there is one thing I would have changed, and I'm hoping you did it, and that is it's actually the man called Sting and not Crow Sting.
No, it's Crow Sting. It's definitely Crow Sting. So what I have in this match...
I was muted there as I was yelling. I was screaming, all right, that's fine, but what do you got for me?
Yeah. Well, what I got here is the story is Hogan having to watch his back as Sting and Luger have been siding as of late. So you have Luger, who's a heel, and Sting has been a face, but they're friends. So you're not really sure where Luger and Sting are lying. You don't know where Sting's allegiance is. You're playing off the friendship. We don't quite know what Sting's going to do. So it's a typical Sting Hogan match. Obviously, it's not going to be, a technical masterpiece, but it's a lot of back and forth. Sting hits the Stinger splash in the corner. Hogan's out on the canvas. Then, a Hulk up ensues. You get the Hulkamania running wild, Hulk up. It's just as it looks like Hogan's about to make the comeback, Luger appears and nails Charles Robinson from behind. So the ref never sees who hits him. He's out and on the ground. And then it's Luger and Sting facing off against Hogan. It looks like Hogan's about to have to fight both men off. When as Sting approaches Hogan, Luger nails Sting with a low blow and hits him with the baseball bat as well. You have a shocked Hogan who clears the ring of Luger after a couple of, big deep punches and a big boot. Or Luger's cleared out of the ring. And then a hesitant Hulk Hogan drops the leg on Sting for the pin. Your winner, by controversial decision, and still WCW World Heavyweight Champion Hulk Hogan.
Interesting. I don't hate it. I hate Luger, so I hate the fact that whole thing's happening. But yeah, it's fine because I feel like you're thinking ahead, knowing that Russo's coming in and stripping everyone of titles and seeing what we're getting with Hogan with that. I kind of see where you're going, and I'm okay with it.
I'm going to, well, if you see, you can pretty well see what I've laid out here. In my mind, we should be getting the Hogan-Brett match we never got. So I would like to see that.
Oh, you mean the one that I forgot to book last week?
Oh, I maybe think there's a reason why I chose Fall Brawl as the audible here.
Well, I can't wait to book the next card after this, which would be what, Halloween Havoc?
Halloween Havoc 99, which, spoiler alert, might be my favorite WCW pay-per-view ever.
It won't be by the time I'm done with it.
I can't imagine it will be. But I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm not going to, whoever gets Halloween Havoc, I don't want to say for sure who's going to do what, but I think it makes a lot of sense to do a Sting Luger feud. We never really seen it before, and it's finally going to happen. The matches themselves probably wouldn't be that great, but there's a great story to be told there. And then, of course, you have Hogan versus Brett. That's the match I've always wanted to see. You and I both discussed it last week, saying, it's the match that should have happened on a big-time stage that never did. So if we're going to do it, I feel like 99's a little bit late for it, but it's not too late for it. Let's do it here, and I'm 100% fine with having a face versus face, Hogan in the red and yellow versus Bret Hart in the pink and black. I'd also be okay with Hogan. There's so much back and forth with face and heel turns in 99. I would be completely fine with an NWO-esque Hollywood Hogan going up against Bret Hart here as well. I don't think you could turn Bret face or heel.
I was going to say, what about NWO Bret Hart?
There's no way you could turn Bret Hart or heel at this time, I don't think, especially like we alluded to after what happened with Owen and everything going on with the Hart family. I just don't think people would buy Bret. They wouldn't boo Bret in 99 at this point, I don't think. I think it'd be too hard to do it right now.
I think you're giving wrestling fans a little too much credit on that one.
Yeah, maybe so. I don't know. But all in all, I think it was a fun card.
Yep, that was Jay's rebooking of Fall Brawl 99, where he started off by getting me so happy that the Insane Clown Posse got the win, and then he gave us that fucking Sid and Flair match that I never want to speak about again.
Okay. Well, I thought I'd throw it out there for you. It stuck against my wall. Obviously, it slid down yours. But with that being said, we will be returning to WCW 1999 at some point. And again, it's one of my guilty pleasures in terms of wrestling and specifically WCW. So I enjoy talking about it. I think there's a lot of fun shows in 99 that we can cover and rebook in the weeks and months and however long ahead. But with that being said, my friend, next week I have, to coin a phrase, a humdinger for you. A very, very fun card indeed. Would you like to know what you're rebooking next week, pal?
Oh, fuck. I really hope that Sid or Flair are on it so that we can do something there.
Well, one of them is on it. That being Ric Flair. You are rebooking the World Wrestling Entertainment's offering of Unforgiven 2005 from the Ford Center in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And if you recall, that's where the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, baby, went over Carlito to win his first Intercontinental Championship.
Yeah, and then he went on and had an orgy in his limo and kept popping out and then passed out.
He sure did. He sure did. It was that was 2005, folks. You were having orgies after title wins.
Yeah. Orgies after title wins and Divas Search contestants in matches that they shouldn't have been in.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. It was a pretty different time in the company. I mean, that main event though made up for all the rest of the card lacked. When you had my favorite version of Kurt Angle, the ECW kind of esque Kurt Angle. My favorite version of Kurt Angle was when he started wearing that mouthpiece. He had those wrestling shoes on, the amateur wrestling shoes. That was my favorite Kurt Angle, and I know it's yours as well. So that aggressive, really.
I will agree that it is the best Kurt Angle, but I will also go out on a limb and say there really is no bad Kurt Angle until recent times.
Yes, I agree. I agree with you 100% on that. And the recent times probably weren't to any fault of his own. He was put in situations that he shouldn't have been put into. But I'm looking forward to talking about this. We're coming right off the heels of SummerSlam 2005, where Hulk Hogan and Shawn Michaels had their match. So I'm sure we'll touch on that as well next week. We'll talk about that. Super glad to be back in the saddle here, pal. We had so much fun being in our live show as we discussed, you and I being together in the same room. We're back to our format, and I think based on the success of our show from last week, we probably will be doing some more of these in-person episodes in the future. Hopefully, I think we're talking maybe Survivor Series time.
That's always the goal, but as we can always say, card subject to change.
Most definitely, much like this week, as we were supposed to talk about SummerSlam 1996, we decided to go back in time to a time where we had West Texas rednecks going up against evil clowns, and not the good kinds like Doink.
No. They're not. Don't compare them to Doink because that's not fair. You know how I feel about Doink, and I can't upset the Juggalos and Juggalettes. Just a different kind of evil clown.
Yes,
we will all we will all meet up on Juggalo Island one day. We will figure out how fucking magnets work. That's what we will do, kids.
I am very much looking forward to figuring out how magnets work. I can't wait for you to describe it to me in detail. Hopefully while we're recording and not off air, because I think that would be some riveting podcast moments in time for our fans to listen to. But with that being said, speaking of our audience and our wonderful listeners, our wonderful fans, where can they find us on social media, pal?
Well, Juggalos and Juggalettes, you can find us on Instagram at good_enemies, on Facebook at the Good Friends Better Enemies podcast, on Twitter at good_enemies, and for all things, Count It Out 7, Good Friends Better Enemies podcast, and fuck it, all things ICP and Twisted, countitout7.com.
And for myself, for Tyrone, for Winston-Salem, North Carolina, for next week's offering of Unforgiven 2005, for being back in the saddle, for Labor Day weekend, for Wendy's. We didn't talk about Wendy's. Wendy's is our new go-to, the Asiago Chicken Ranch. Dip those French fries in your Frosties, folks, and enjoy yourself some more of the summertime that's ahead, whatever little is left. You've been listening to the Good Friends Better Enemies podcast.
One more time from Juggalo Island. Bye.